would have been easier, moving or staying, but I guess I won't know now. Before I start, I want to just let you all know that there are copies of a storytelling project that Lofton and Anne-Marie and I worked on, available for anybody who wants them on a table sort of over where you checked in this evening. So I encourage you to take those and share them with whoever you think might be interested.
What was the project?
Sorry? It was a prison storytelling project. So Lofton and Anne-Marie and I visited prison in Hillsborough every week for about 6 months, something like that. And then we encouraged the men that we visited with to submit stories and artwork on any topic. And then the results is the compilation we have. Thanks, Alexi. Yeah. So, let me tell you a little about what I have learned about co-creation in my 2 years in the Johnson Intern Program. Above all else, co-creation requires humility. In her introduction to St. John of the Cross's The Dark Night of the Soul, Mirabai Starr defines humility as the gentle acceptance of that most tender place inside ourselves that throbs with the pain of separation from the beloved. It is that deep knowingness that identification with the false self brings nothing but further separation. It is an initially reluctant dropping down into the emptiness and an ultimate experience of peace when we stop doing and rediscover simple being. It is the Sabbath of the soul when we heed the call to cease creating and remember that we are created. Put that way, humility sounds lovely, but it's much harder in practice because it means that you have to step out of your own way. You have to look yourself in the eyes and see who you really are. Sure, you have to accept your own brokenness, but in order to accept that brokenness, you actually have to look at it, pick it up, turn it over. Acceptance is the easy part. It's the looking that hurts so much. My 2 years with JIP, and this second one in particular, have been about looking, about seeing, and about accepting. When I have been successful at this task, I've been able to drop down into the emptiness and the silence in which God holds us and whispers our name. Living in community has been a lesson in humility. As our 8 different ways of living clashed this year, as our hurts and bruises hurt and bruised each other, I found, when I chose to, the opportunity of discovering some painful truths about myself. Occasionally this year, I cleaned our kitchen in a storm of resentment. If I was able, when I did this, to slow down my fuming breath, to settle into my body, and get away from my blaming mind, I was able to see the ways that I manipulate and dominate others. In this manipulation and domination, I was startled to discover that I often create an idol of myself, a projected image of who I am, capable, moral, together, invulnerable. I do this not primarily to hide who I am from others, but rather to hide who I am from me. The struggle to break down my created self-image spilled over into my work at Club Nova, where I had the opportunity daily to try to see others and myself clearly, rather than through my pride and envy. My role at Club Nova has been to facilitate our members' recovery from serious mental illness. This task has often asked me to encourage our members to behave in more socially appropriate ways, to stop interrupting, for instance, or to say excuse me when they bump into someone. And while these efforts certainly have value, they have often opened a window into my own need to control my environment, to have my way so that I can feel secure, wanted, loved. In helping me to clear the haze of created self-image, the members and staff of Club Nova have facilitated my own rehabilitation. The strongest call to humility, however, has been through my work at the Orange County Correctional Center in Hillsborough. As I mentioned, for our service project this year, Anne-Marie Lofton and I decided to visit this prison weekly and to produce a collection of the prisoners' stories. Some of the men we visit with have committed terrible crimes, in particular rape, murder, and child molestation. When I first learned the specifics of these convictions, I felt kind of numb for a while. My second reaction was to wish away that knowledge because it made me wildly uncomfortable. But finally, after struggling with my own urge to run away, I was left with no choice but to settle down into silence and stillness. In that stillness and that silence, I encountered a darkness, a brokenness, and a sadness deeper than any I've ever known. These horrific crimes can only emanate from the most mutilated parts of a person, from some deep need unmet, twisted over time into violence that is eventually let loose. As I sat in silence with these forces, I mourned for the depth of hurt and violence in our world and in the men I had come to know and love at the prison. But the most perplexing part of that encounter was that I saw this darkness, this brokenness, this sadness in my own heart as well. I began to see clearly for the first time the violence and the shame in my own depths, the needs that I have that have gone unmet and have begun to twist and blacken. I found that part of myself that throbs with longing and pain at my separation from God. And I saw how little truly separates any of us from those we condemn. Through my time with these prisoners, I have begun to understand that Jesus calls us into relationship with the marginalized, not in order to show them the light of the Gospels, but in order that we, by encountering the world's broken people, may encounter our own brokenness, that we may stop worshiping the idols we have created of ourselves and instead look on our own beautiful, broken faces. In that gazing, we are transfigured. In truly beholding my own brokenness, in touching my own shame and anger, and my desperate longing to be united with the beloved, I have oddly enough found more peace and joy than I've ever known. I have been held and loved and called by my name. We are, all of us, being invited every moment of our lives to stop creating ourselves and to acknowledge that we are created. That invitation is co-creation.